Welcome to our picks for week 9 in the CFL. JC, I've been on a hot streak against the spread. I've evened my record. I'm not going to say your record out of courtesy for you, but suffice to say it is time for you to start stringing together dubs, my friend.
Real men pick straight up and let the record show that my record is better straight up than yours is. So just ignore
It
anything
is
I
very
say about the
slightly
spread.
better, and my picks against the spread kill yours. Absolutely devastate yours. So we'll see if you get back on track in week 9. We start with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers being 3.5-point home underdogs to the BC Lions on Thursday night at Princess Auto Stadium. Veteran receiver Lucky Whitehead will be in the starting lineup for the Blue Bombers, making his 2024 debut, while the Lions are getting reigning CFL All-Star Keon Hatcher back from a torn Achilles he suffered in last year's West Final. BC won the first meeting between these two teams back on June 21st by a score of 26-24 as VA hit Alexander Holland 7 times for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. JC, can Winnipeg avoid a similar fate this week against their West Coast foes?
They can avoid a similar fate, but only because the margin of defeat will be much, much larger than it was last time these two teams played. Look, the Bombers just look like a team that is struggling right now, that doesn't have their wind. They're going to be playing on a short week yet again. They are exhausted, beaten up, defeated in many ways, and the BC Lions are coming off a bye, getting a huge piece back offensively in Keon Hatcher, rejigging their lineup, and going to be full of fire after that loss to the Calgary Stampeders 2 weeks ago. I think they're going to come out flying. I think they're going to come out trying to make a statement. And this is the game that may ultimately determine the fact that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are no longer Grey Cup contenders. Once the Lions put the smackdown on you twice, I think that's it for you. 3.5 points isn't even close to a big enough spread for this game. I think BC will run away with it.
Yeah, I think the spread is only this close because this game is at Princess Auto Stadium. The Bombers obviously have a great atmosphere there, the loudest stadium in the CFL. And the Bombers at 2-6, their losses have all been close. The only exception is week 1. The offense really sputtered. They lost by 15 points to the Montreal Alouettes. Since then, they've been right in every game, including last week when if they could have not lost 3 fumbles, they would almost certainly have won. They badly outplayed the Argonauts, but lost because of those giveaways. That said, JC, for the reasons you laid out, I am also on the BC Lions here straight up and against the spread. This is the dream scenario, I think, for the Lions. The odds could not be stacked more in their favor. They're getting Keon Hatcher back. They're coming off a bye week. Yet they are not complacent because we know that they lost narrowly to the Calgary Stampeders in an upset loss the last time they were on the field. Meanwhile, Winnipeg loses Drew Wolotarski to the 6-game injured list, loses Patrick Neufeld to the 6-game injured list. They're starting a rookie at right guard. Lucky Whitehead is back, but I also don't think Lucky Whitehead was exactly sensational last season for the BC Lions. Can he provide a bit of a spark? Maybe. But I just think Winnipeg as an older team on a short week, these cards are not there. They have not been dealt well for this team. I think they fall to 2-7 and get a much needed bye in week 10. We'll see what this team can do in the second half of the season, but if they win on Thursday, they would be that would be quite the coup. I think that the BC Lions win this one. I think they win this by not a blowout, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly close game. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are 4.5-point underdogs to the Montreal Alouettes on Friday night as Cody Fajardo is expected to return to the lineup after being pulled off the 6-game injured list early. The Ticats are on a 2-game winning streak after pasting the Elks at Commonwealth Stadium last week, while the Alouettes pulled off an impressive comeback win over the Riders with Davis Alexander at the helm. JC, will the Alouettes flex their muscles in Steeltown, or can the Tabbies make it 3 in a row with the upset?
Well, there's still a lot to determine here, particularly at the quarterback position for Montreal. Cody Fajardo off the 6-game injured list, which presumably means he's going to play, but did not practice for the first practice of the week, was limited yesterday. We're recording this on Wednesday. We'll see what his status is come game day. For me, I'm picking the Alouettes either way. I was impressed by what Davis Alexander showed in that half of action. Frankly, I think it might be better for the organization as a whole to rest Cody for another week and see what you have in Davis Alexander against an opponent who, let's be frank about this, has struggled defensively at times this year. I don't think the Hamilton Tiger Cats are going to win this game regardless of who's at quarterback. But I do think they are an improved unit right now. Dennis McKnight has squared away those special teams. Bo Levi Mitchell has been good all season on offense. I think they can get just enough from two of their three phases to cover this 4.5-point spread, but the Montreal Alouettes will win it.
I think the Ticats deserve some credit for their remarkable turnaround on defense. We know that a few weeks ago they got absolutely humiliated by the BC Lions, and since then they've been better. Now, they haven't officially announced any changes. I do suspect there have been some changes defensively behind the scenes, but that's not confirmed. What matters here, however, is with the Montreal Alouettes, this defense is still, I think, the number one in the league. And Bo Levi Mitchell, full credit for the 5 touchdowns against the Edmonton Elks last week. But throwing 5 touchdowns against Edmonton does not mean that you're going to be able to move the ball effectively against the Montreal Alouettes. I do think that this Owls defense is going to give the Ticats problems. They're good against the run. They're good against the pass. They're good at generating takeaways. For that reason, I am going to take the Montreal Alouettes to win and cover this spread. I think the Alouettes can do enough offensively to build a nice little lead, and defensively, I think they're going to make it very hard for the Ticats to score in this one. I'm happy to eat the points, especially if Cody Fajardo is in fact back, which we suspect he will be. I'm happy to take the Alouettes and the points, eat them up. 4.5 doesn't scare me. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are 5.5-point favorites over the Edmonton Elks on Saturday night, despite the visitors making a quarterback change. Trey Ford will make his first start of the season after putting up 3 touchdown passes in the last 10 minutes of last week's loss to Hamilton, while the Riders will look to bounce back after giving a 2-score halftime lead against the Alouettes. JC, can Trey Ford power the Elks to their first win of the season, or will the Riders roll at home?
Did you hear that, Hodge? It's like there's like a siren going off in the background. It's upset alert, upset alert, upset alert. Oh, yes, I know. I'm going out on a limb here, but I think the Edmonton Elks can pull this off. And I'll tell you why. The Saskatchewan Roughriders right now are a banged up team, and they've been able to overcome a lot of that, I think, through no small part due to their fantastic coaching by Corey Mace and the way he's got that unit playing together. But at some point, those injuries have to catch up to you, and there's a few more guys not practicing on the defensive side of the ball this week, or at least early on, than have been in the past. Meanwhile, Edmonton got a huge boost from the insertion of Trey Ford, and it's pretty clear that roster rallied around him, that there were people in that locker room that thought he got stiffed when they brought in MBT, and that, frankly, they wanted him on the field all along. He has a special type of athleticism that is hard to defend for a full 60 minutes. I think there are going to be times when Mace and his defensive play calling gets the better of Trey Ford in this game, but there are going to be stretches, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, where he looks unstoppable because you can't keep a freak athlete like that in a cage for an entire football game. Those are going to be the times when the Edmonton Elks can capitalize here. I think they sneak out a very, very narrow victory against Saskatchewan on the road.
I think that Trey Ford is going to breathe new life into the Edmonton Elks. But that being said, I do still think that the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to do enough to get it done at home. I'm going to take the Riders to win, but not cover. I'm going to take the Elks here, plus the 5.5 points. I think the spread is too wide. Surprisingly, it didn't change at all after the change was made at quarterback. But Cloud Bethel Thompson was the starter in theory when this line was made. I expected it to narrow after Trey Ford came out, but it is in fact still at 5.5 points, somewhat surprising. So I think that Trey Ford will do enough moving his feet, right, and that tremendous athleticism that he has to keep this score close. But I do think that the Riders, especially in the tough confines of Mosaic Stadium, will do enough to win this one. The Calgary Stampeders are 3-point favorites on Sunday night against the Toronto Argonauts, where they'll look to get back on track following a disastrous performance in Ottawa, during which Jake Mayer was pulled in favor of Logan Bonner. The Argonauts had their own quarterback problems last week as Cameron Dukes and Nick Arbuckle struggled to move the ball against Winnipeg, though the club eked out a win on the strength of a pick-6 from Tavares McFadden. JC, who do you have in this one, the Argos or the Stamps?
Well, can I make a bold suggestion, Hodge, to both of these teams? Can we make a gentleman's agreement? Just play without quarterbacks. Nobody here wants to see Jake Mayer. Nobody wants to see Nick Arbuckle. Let's just play Wildcat the entire game. Save the fans the misery of having to watch that QB battle. But if they're going to have quarterbacks on the field, you're going to have to protect them. And frankly, Calgary's offensive line proved last week they're not very good at doing that. And they've got some dude named Jake Serezda on the other side this week. And as you know very well, watching the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Hodge, Jake Serezna, he's pretty unblockable up front from the interior. I think he's going to get home early and often in this football game. I don't think the Calgary Stampeders are going to be able to overcome that, and I think the Toronto Argonauts will secure a victory and cover this 3-point spread, although not by a whole lot.
I'm in the same boat with you, JC. I do not trust the Calgary Stampeders. I do think they're going to bounce back to some extent from their brutal loss in the nation's capital this past week. That being said, I don't trust them to score points. Defensively, they are still ranked more towards the bottom of the league than the top. And the Argonauts are not getting good enough quarterbacking right now from Nick Arbuckle or from Cameron Dukes. That being said, they have been mistake-free. And when you don't turn the football over, you set yourself up for a lot of success to take advantage of other teams' mistakes, as evidenced by the litany of mistakes that the Argos took advantage of this past week against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So for that reason, I will take the Toronto Argonauts to win. I don't think this is going to be a pretty game. I don't think this is going to be one of those high-flying open CFL games where you go, wow, the entertainment value of this league is off the charts. I think this is going to be a slow, ugly slugfest. They'll be running the ball. Kadeem Carey, by the way, cannot wait to see him play his former team. I think he is going to be a man on a mission. I mean, he's a physical runner at the best of times. I think he's going to bring even more power to that punch against his old club. So I will take the Argos to win, but I am going to, I will take the Toronto Argonauts to win and cover this spread here. We hope you enjoy Week 9 in the Canadian Football League. As always, stay tuned to 3 Down Nation for all the latest news and analysis from across the country. We'll see you next week with our picks for Week 10.